Winning the Customer, the new RTN Best Practices Playbook. I'm Skip Kimple, if you don't know who I am, Chief Data Standards and AI Officer for RTN, and I'm excited to help you guide today's conversation. Um, Restaurants have more ways than ever to reach a customer. Loyalty, digital ordering, offers, social media, delivery marketplaces, personalized messaging, and now an entirely new layer of AI-powered discovery and engagement. But more technology doesn't necessarily mean a stronger customer relationship. That was really the premise behind the work RTN started with winning the customer, really helping restaurant brands understand how they are trying to win the guest in the first place. The framework that was created within this work group consists of multiple paths. Transaction driven, winning the wallet, competing through value, convenience, offers, pricing, and ease of transaction. Data driven, winning the mind, using what we know about the customer to create greater relevance, personalization, and engagement. And brand driven, winning the heart, building that kind of emotional connection and affinity that makes someone choose the brand, even though when they are there, there's plenty of alternatives that we need to be able to compensate for. Today, we're going to revisit that framework that was created. But we're not simply going to walk through something that was created in the past. We're going to pressure test that against where the restaurant industry is today. And one of the biggest challenges is obviously AI. AI is influencing three paths from pricing, decision-making intelligence, to segmentation and personalization, to content creation, brand discovery, even whether your restaurant shows up when your guests ask ChatGPT, Claude, or any other platform where they should eat. So an important question for today is, if we were creating the winning the customer playbook from scratch today, what would we change? What would we add, and what fundamentals would remain exactly the same? And before we jump in, I also want to recognize the people who make this work possible. These work groups are a super powerful piece of what RTN is today. We bring operators and suppliers together to solve for common issues within the industry. This framework was built through the collaboration of an outstanding group of RTN contributors, including Robert Peterson, Mary Beth Miskovas, Tim Tang, Eric Saul, Christina Clausen, Mark Mullinex, and Casey Merrifield. I want to thank each and every one of you for joining the call today and contributing your expertise, your experience, ideas, and perspectives to the work that we're going to discover today. And to those joining us in the discussion today, rather than giving everybody a long formal introduction, I'll ask each one of you to briefly introduce yourselves from our key contributor team, who you are, the perspective you bring to the winning the customer, and which of these three paths you think has changed the most since we originally developed this network or this framework. So Christina, we've designated you to lead this group. You're a key piece of this process. I'm going to let you take it away from here.
Awesome. Well, my name, as Skip said, is Christina Klassen. I'm the CEO and founder of Make Good Lemonade. I'm a restaurant consultant who specializes in technical onboardings, technical projects, and my passion is with off-prem. So a lot of stuff that we've gone through is really near and dear to my heart. I think data is probably the one path that has seen the most change since we started this. A lot of restaurants, collect the data and don't have an opportunity to do anything with it. So I think a lot of what's happened recently is allowing our restaurants to sort of take that data and actually do something with it. Who wants to go next? Robert?
Robert Peterson, sales executive at Oracle Restaurants. Been let's say a founding member of RTN since its launch in 2019. Really have found a home here, collaborating with other brands and other solution providers and the consultants as well. I really hone in on the data-driven aspect of this. The building out the first three data standards were just near and dear to my heart, and we're currently working on the kitchen production data standard. And happy to be here today. Thank you.
I'll go next. Mark Mullinex. My background, I guess, in the restaurant technology industry is digital menu boards back in the 2015 to 17-ish, and then did a lot of mobile app development, social media apps, not specific to the restaurant industry, working for a consulting firm, and then we also focus on a specific software platform for the restaurant industry that was more focused on construction and store rollouts. I'm an independent consultant.
Hey,
Mary Beth? Oh, go.
you go. All right. Eric Saul, founder of Someone Marketing. I focus on the advertising and online ordering customer journey. And I was agree with Christina with the data driven. I think that was kind of the most impactful, just because you can just do so much now with it, segmentation, segmenting your audiences and things like that. So very excited to go through that.
Casey, do you want to go
the
next?
last one? Oh, no. Yeah, sure. I see Mary Beth too. Casey Marisfeld. I come from an operator background, also have worked on the vendor side as well, but I think I'll always just be a bartender from Oklahoma. So this operations is my strong suit. I think, I go back and forth on what has changed the most versus what hasn't changed the most. So since we put this framework in place, I see some of the consistency, and it hasn't changed the most is still so many disparate systems and brands still trying to gather all their data in one place to make good use of it, to make the brands feel more like they're using the data to enhance convenience or frictionless interactions versus being a little creepy with like, I know exactly where you are in your favorite restaurant, and balancing those two out. So that's what I would say has changed most. And I also am an independent consultant.
And last but not least, Mary Beth.
Absolutely. My name is Mary Beth Mishkovas. I am the VP of Growth and Technology at Rocky Mountain Chocolate Factory. As of a few days ago, when we were building out this framework, I was the interim director of analytics at Wendy's with my consulting firm at that time. And I would say that I'm very much focused on the data and marketing technology area. And I don't think that the value of the framework has changed much, but what has changed is restaurants' ability to accelerate if they leverage AI in some of these areas. And so some of these things that when we're looking at the maturities would have taken more time or headcount to build up to. Now there's some of those places where if you're looking at this and knowing where the gap is, you can fill some of those pieces faster or also understand a little bit more of how to use what you currently have in a faster way. So I think it's all just accelerated, and that's what's changed.
I think that's a great point. Awesome. I'm going to go ahead and share the tool with everybody. Just let me know when you can see it. All right. Can you guys see that okay?
Yes.
Awesome. So this is the culmination of all of the sort of ideas and really interesting conversations that we had around winning the customer. Since a lot of people who are part of RTN and who are on this call are, people in the technology space, we did build it as a framework. So it's sort of a system of a way for you to think about how we win the customer, to make it easier for sort of the way that you guys think, probably systematically. So as Skip mentioned, winning the customer there, when we went through the glut of information that we had gathered, we found that there were 3 distinct paths that brands generally seemed to follow with regards to winning the customer. Now, you can mix and match this. That's, totally fine. We're just giving you guys the tool in with which to think about how to win the customer. So, and we won't go through it in detail because Skip went through a lot, but essentially, we saw that restaurants were following sort of 3 basic tenets, either transaction driven, data driven, or brand driven. And when we circle back to winning the customer, that's, transaction driven is we're a restaurant, we make food, you give us money for food. So that is winning the wallet. And data driven is we've done some investigating. We know this about our customers, or more, as Casey said, a little more creepily, we know you. So we're going to use the data that we've gathered to talk to you. And then brand driven is, our brand, and we want to keep happy feelings about that. So that's winning your heart. So like Grimace, very near and dear to my heart. So, having those kinds of things that make restaurants keep those customers throughout the years. So before we go on to the levels of communication in a really cool matrix, I'd like to stop and ask everybody just a quick question. We're going to skip around a little bit. Casey, so we talk a lot about data and technology, but customers ultimately experience a restaurant as a brand. How important is having a consistent and authentic brand voice in building that relationship?
Oh, I think it's foundational. I think it's foundational even before the technology. So just leveraging the technology to enhance and bring to life the brand's authenticity and identity is very important. The voice, I think, you may have a restaurant with 10 different channels that you can order your food through, but there should be a sense of familiarity with the menu, the navigation, the identity of the brand, and how seamless that feels to the customer. I think that's it's key to the foundation of that third column there, just that emotional connection and the affinity that grows from that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's thank you for that. Mark, we've seen enormous changes in how customers discover, order from, and interact with restaurants. What do you think has changed most fundamentally about the customer relationship?
I think we're kind of recovering from like third-party ordering experiences, the dine-in out shift that we experienced years ago, and kind of the distant brand experience. I mean, I myself, as you guys know, that's on the call, I used to order multiple places and apps, and I was always in and out on what was great about it and what wasn't. But what I've noticed, I moved and relocated to a city, a smaller town, and I eat out a lot, and I'm very aware of the dine-in experience, and I think that there's an opportunity there, for brands to kind of revisit, obviously the data siloing that we're going to be talking about and have been talking about, but also going back to just the basics before all this happened, because you want nice people serving you, and you want fluid processes and good experiences wherever you go, and sometimes they hit it and sometimes they don't. So I think there's an opportunity there as well.
Absolutely. I mean, that's what it comes down to, right? Is the interaction between the restaurant and the customer. Thank you. Eric, how has the growth of online ordering and digital channels changed the way restaurants can engage with customers?
Yeah, I would definitely say more of a transactional side. So instead of going transactional, hey, this person bought it. Now what we can do is actually build the opportunity of growing that person into a frequent customer. So before, as Mark was mentioning, someone dines in, you may know that, hey, Mark came in, he likes to eat his burger, but after that, we don't know if Mark's going to come back. We may not have an opportunity to invite him back because we don't have his information. When someone orders, now we can build that loyalty through them as well. We understand, hey, Mark might order every Thursday a pizza, and then we can invite him to come back, or send him on an email or any of that personalization to them. So I think it's being able to help the transaction, but it also help the brand and understand who's actually ordering, because you have all their information. You can reach out to them in various ways. So
Absolutely. And sort of piggybacking on that, Robert, how can technology help capture that information generated through the transactions and other interactions with the restaurant?
So I mean, I think guest engagement is key here. So any of your guest engagement technologies, loyalty, gamification, capturing account, information on a guest, dietary preferences, etc. It's key that they all work across every single channel, both on and off prem. I always like to give the bonus tip out, which is, don't ask for customers, for, dietary information if you're not going to use that. And that's one of my pet peeves that I do see. But certainly the guest engagement, is, and the technologies that are centered on those is key in winning.
Absolutely. I absolutely agree. Mary Beth, if you were advising a restaurant that wanted to get better at using its point of sale and customer data to win and retain customers, where would you tell them to start?
I always say that you should start with some of the very basics, which is taking a look at some of the general flows of the data that you do see from those systems. You don't have to have that unified in a really strong way to do this. You could be looking purely at what you do know from the customer data. Within your POS, it's very different depending on the system you have. I say that you should be looking at your P&Ls, seeing if there's anything there. Sometimes you can even find some information just there. Like, for example, I worked with a coffee brand who that was one of the main areas I was looking at. And just by the data there, I could see that there were certain products that were not being purchased very often. Sometimes those are some of the trade-offs that you can make of like improving customer experience by making everything else more expedient. If there's a few products that you don't sell very much of and are very cumbersome from an operational perspective, for example. So looking at some of those basics and then also looking at your overall health metrics that are related to customers. How often do they come back? What are you seeing as far as feedback and things like that? And comparing that to some of the industry standards. Really, a lot of times, the biggest leaps that you can make are by going back to the basics.
Absolutely. I mean, and to your point, how often people are coming in. I think Noah at Olo just posted a metric or information today that your top 20 customers are responsible for 60% of your sales. So making sure that you keep those people happy is paramount to the success of your restaurant. Cool. Thanks, Mary Beth. So then to the next piece of our winning the customer framework is the different levels of communication. So as we mentioned, speaking to the customer, which is, if we look at these three different ways of communication, speaking to, conversing with, or creating a relationship with, in the framework of, say, like an email, when you're speaking to your customers, it's here's our new menu. You're not really interacting with them. You're just giving them information, right? You're speaking to your customers. Conversing with, for example, on email marketing would be like hey, your favorite thing on our menu is our loaded baked potato. Other people who like the loaded baked potato also like this, for example. And a relationship with could be, hey, everybody, we've hired somebody new at our office. Like, welcome our new, digital social media manager. So creating a relationship like you guys are a part of our company, so we want you to know what's going on behind the scenes. So what we did was we took all of the information that we gathered and realized that using these three ways to interact with a customer along different types of technology, we could identify each technology and where it fit in speaking with, conversing with, or creating relationships with. And we could frame how you should think about using that technology if you're focused on increasing transactions, increasing your relationships, or just increasing being top of mind, right? So the cool thing about this matrix is you can click on any one of these and it sort of helps you frame how to think about using that technology based on how you're trying to interact with that customer. We encourage you guys to go through this matrix yourself and check it out. We don't have the time or bandwidth on this call to go through all of it, but I can promise you hours and hours were spent laboring over how to think about each one of these different technologies as it relates to interacting with your customer. So before we
Sorry,
go on,
Crystal, how do we get access to it again?
Tammy or Skip.
I'll put it in the chat.
Thank you.
Awesome. So before we go into step 2, setting yourself apart, I want to ask these guys a couple questions to our team. And let me not mute myself to ask questions. So Mary Beth, we talked about transactions, customer relationships, and all the data restaurants have available to them. What do restaurants often struggle with when it comes to turning that data into something useful?
I mean, I think the vast majority of us are only barely scratching the surface with everything that's available. So, I think a huge struggle is the understanding of what is an information that's you can use to drive business impact versus what is just information to have. It's very easy to get stuck into a loop of requesting reporting and things like that, and having an analytics team that's a little bit more of a service desk. So I think that that's a huge struggle, is to make sure that you're setting up a team that, instead of being a service desk that's delivering reports where you're not really asking the business question or having it answered, is to look at ways of integrating a little bit across the board so that your data team is interacting with all of the areas of the business that are critical. So you can ask really big, juicy questions like, why don't we get the repeat visitor rates that we expect we should? What is and isn't working for our loyalty program? All these things that are huge questions for businesses today, that you need to have a little bit more integration with those data teams. So in general, I see that a lot of companies are doing a lot of collecting and spending a lot of time worrying about the data quality, which is important, but there's ways to balance that out, versus finding ways to be able to make better, faster actions on that data.
Awesome. Yeah, I totally agree. I think it can be frustrating for data teams to constantly have, the C-suite like demanding different one-off reports when they could just be doing, the whole data dashboards for people that they manage on a regular basis. Thank you. Robert, from a technology perspective, what needs to happen behind the scenes for a restaurant to create a consistent relationship with a customer across different channels?
So let me start first with the basics. That something that hasn't changed, for the last 100 years. I mean, tone and manner, look and feel, your branding, your imagery, your menu. It's so key to have it consistent, and that engagement with your customers, so they feel the same way regardless of what channel that they are seeking your brand. Um, Menu, like I mean, there's two ways to look at this, but from a menu perspective, I believe that the menu should be a subset in different channels, unless there is some uniqueness in driving. And I know some brands do this where they have a special digital only offering, but I think in general, the menu should be very consistent as well. From a systems standpoint, I talked earlier about the guest engagement technologies. They need to work on every channel the same way. The loyalty, both accrual and rewards, need to work in every channel, whether you're at the counter, whether you're invoking. I know that's difficult with third-party delivery, but that would be the panacea. And again, I'll double down on those account profiles. I mean, if you're capturing dietary preferences, you want to make sure that you utilize them and you use them to filter menus and things of that sort, and not and I wouldn't market to someone who's already told you that this is something that I don't prefer to eat. I think that's key there. Um, yeah, that's my take.
I mean,
I think that's, oh, sorry, go ahead, Kevin here. Robert, I think that's critical of what you just said, right? As restaurants, we continue to communicate with our consumers about things they don't want, whether it's through a mass blast of email or social media push or whatever. At the minimum, we should probably start getting down to personas where there's a group of people that actually like that one thing. I do think that one-to-one personalization is going to be a bit challenging and probably cost prohibitive. Maybe AI helps us with that a little bit, but at least at the group or persona level, it makes more sense. I get so tired of, hey, you get $5 off. I'm like, it's the same $5 off you sent last week in the last week, and I haven't used it in 2 months. Stop sending it to me. That's not where I see value.
Yeah, no, I
absolutely.
agree. I mean, we've done well with marketing of what customers, what guests want. I think we need to also put as equal attention of what they don't want or what they prefer not to eat.
Absolutely. And I think I mean, to what you said, Robert, like having different menu subsets for different channels. Sometimes there's something in your restaurant that just doesn't travel well, and that's okay.
Yeah,
God, goodness forbid you're driving in-store sales by saying that thing that you really love. It doesn't travel, so you should come on in and have it at the restaurant. Like that's not a bad message to send. So yeah, I think that's valuable. Thank you.
you bet.
Um, Eric, what is an opportunity for a restaurant when it can turn an online ordering interaction into an ongoing relationship with the customer?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest opportunity is going to be lifetime value of that customer. When people are coming into the restaurant, they're visiting, you may know them personally, you may know their name, you may know their family, where they went to school, etc. But online, you don't have that information. So being able to go from one step of how do I get them to order to how do I create a loyal customer is kind of the questions that we should start be asking is so how do I get them come back, whether that is thanking them from a previous order, following up for another visit, sending them to promotions, introducing other food items that may complement what they had previously ordered. So taking, as everyone said, understanding the data and kind of really personalizing that to that customer. So the more personalization, be able to tell their friends or family member, oh, I didn't know they had online ordering, or I didn't know there was something on that. You can get a promotion when you sign up or loyalty. So it's being able to not look at online ordering as a technology, but look at it as a customer retention opportunity as well. It's cheaper to reach out to your existing customers than it is to go out and find new customers. So
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think what is it? It's like $4.50 to get a new customer, and obviously it's free if you're just retaining the same
yeah.
customer. But yeah, that's super interesting. There was a couple of years ago, Culver's did promotional like email blasts where they just said, "Hey everybody, we have Reese's peanut butter cups concrete mixers," and it increased their sales by an astronomical amount. And they weren't, discounting their food. They were just providing information of something new that people didn't know about, which is kind of interesting. Thanks, Eric. Casey. What does it take to turn a marketing message into an actual conversation with a customer rather than just another promotion in their inbox or their phone?
Oh, so I think for me, the test is just how to make it more conversational and to entice them with things that, like you were just saying, are not always value based. But personalization, what data you gather from your customer, does it bring them value for you to know that data? If yes, probably good to have it. If not, and it's just another way for you to push the same promotional things to them, maybe you should rethink the strategy, right? So I know I've seen some brands leverage things like for the customers that are loyal, to Eric's point, your point earlier, that's the bulk of those return lifetime value customers. If you are part of our loyalty program, we have a special drop of either a secret menu or we have a drop of merch. It is, there's been a lot of success with like brand t-shirts, brand swag shops for that are more like if you're already part of this thing, this is a special that you get. So turning one-way pushes into two-way conversations, whether it's sending polls or understanding the demographics enough to say, based on what we see you've ordered and your frequency, maybe you'd like this. I don't need to be dangled into coming in for breakfast. I'm never going to be on time enough to get breakfast anywhere, ever. And so don't send me that. I know you're trying to entice me to a new day part, but just keep giving me things that are that you see fit my patterns of purchase and are useful or valuable to me.
I'm with you. I'm not a morning person. Though I love what you said about brand swag. I mean, like Raising Cane's does a great job of it. They've got caniacs and they've got shirts and everything in their restaurants, and people can't seem to get enough of them. So that's awesome. Thank you.
And their brand voice is so unique. You're gonna get a mini wrap when you get to that drive-through speaker,
Right.
and it's gonna make your day. And that's just something that's consistent. And the people they partner with, for the most simple menu, it is consistent, it's delicious, it's correct and accurate no matter which way you get it, which is just a superb execution.
Yeah, I mean, and they use like the geofencing really well in order to make sure that when you go to Raising Cane's, your food is going to be hot when you get there. So awesome. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Mark, when
Hey,
you look at all of these channels, where do you think restaurants have the biggest opportunity to rethink about how they engage customers?
well, I think what everybody's been mentioning, obviously the the first and third party data silos, cumbersome for recognizing in real time. And real time is ultimately what you want to get to, right? Across all channels, theoretically. It's a huge goal for some, and some are probably going to achieve it, and other brands may not. I think, personalization beyond the ordering apps, based on history and habits, which that kind of gets in the real-time data stuff. But at the end of the day, I mean, just connecting with the customers, and some people may shoot me for saying this, but this is just one of my pet peeves about the commercials, for example, and marketing. Um, Maybe that food, that burger or chicken, whatever, doesn't look that good as the brand may think it does on television or in a commercial, and to rethink a little bit on how you approach pushing your, the items, the LTOs and things that you're doing, and get creative with it. I mean, if you look at outside of the industry, which is where I think if I were in marketing in some of the bigger places, that's what I would be doing is what are other people doing? What have they done that has made brand awareness stick? And, we have insurance companies. We all knew Flow is, or Mayhem, for example, right? So that's just two examples of how a business has connected with customers through personality. So I don't know, just rethinking some of the way we've done business in the past, and obviously balancing the tech and all that, which it's here, it's AI is here, but it's a big task when you've got all these different systems. And the other thing I would add, the last thing too, is that internally, how is the brand operating internally? Because it directly impacts the customer at the end of the day. Operating internally, are you communicating? Does your marketing department know it's construction? And is everybody on the same page, or is everybody operating in individual silos, similar to how the data maybe has been managed in the past? I've seen that. I've seen brands try to take it from that silo point internally to, making it cohesive as possible using
Absolutely.
technology.
Yeah. I mean, to your point about silos, I mean, and Eric could probably speak to this too, is probably the biggest pain point for online ordering is the execution in the restaurant, right? Because the people that are doing the online ordering don't work in the restaurant, but your customer walks in the door and they need to know where to go, right? Like, do I go to the host? Do I go to the bar to pick up my food? So working as a team instead of in silos is really helpful to make sure that that customer's journey from the time they place the order to the time they pick that bag up in the restaurant is paramount. And I think that's a place that a lot of improvement can be done in the restaurant. Also, side note, I hate Liberty Bibberty.
Yeah. And last thing I would say on that topic too is this is what I think a lot of them have lost sight of is just basic customer service in the restaurant. Everybody's not just ordering drive-throughs. I mean, I roll in sometimes and I don't go back to places. I mean, I will not go back to places if I can tell that management is not running the show. And you have the wrong people interacting and running the show the way they want to run it. Which, as we all know, that affects your brand.
Oh, absolutely.
Basic
Absolutely.
customer service skills, the in-store stuff can't be forgotten.
Yeah. And it goes back to what Robert said about making sure that you've got those basics like down before you start moving towards, more specialization. So talking though about how brands set themselves apart, you've kind of segued us into our last section of the tool, which is the disruption. And I think everybody on this call who's worked on this can agree this was probably the most exciting piece of this tool that we talked about, right, is disruption. Because the thing is, everything that we've talked about so far is how brands can set themselves up for success based on, the tenets of the industry, right? We all know about sending email blasts. We all know about online ordering. We all know about third parties. But what about disruption, right? So how do brands set themselves apart? They have to do something new and interesting, looking at the insurance industry or, trying something new. One thing that when we were talking about disruption that we really, we struggled with, right, is because disruption is something that can't be defined, right? Because disruption is thinking outside of the box. So we can't give you like a how to disrupt the industry because that right there is it's flies in the face of disruption. So one thing that we talked about is, as leaders in restaurant, you have to provide an environment for your team in order to ideate, in order to experiment. If your leadership is like, we need to go viral, we have to go viral, and your job depends on the fact that you go viral, but it's a not a not an environment where you can experiment. It's an environment where you have to succeed. If you don't provide the right place for your teams to ideate and experiment and fail, then you will not be able to successfully disrupt the industry or disrupt the customer's attention, which is actually what we go through. We realize that there's two sort of types of disruption. And I know this is near and dear to Robert's heart. Robert spent a lot of time sort of talking about the specifics of this that we'll go through in a second. But we sort of looked at, disrupting the customer's attention. So for example, there is two fast food restaurants that have, a very epic long-term sort of rivalry, right? And one of those restaurants said on their app, if you are at the location of our rival's restaurant that we can see on your GPS, and you decide instead to come to our restaurant, we will give you free French fries. That's disrupting the customer's attention, right? So it's that rivalry, right? And using apps and using geofencing is not something disruptive, right? Because it already exists and that's what they used. But the way in which they used it was disrupting the customer's attention. And industry disruption, everything that we've been talking about was once disruption, right? So, and Robert spent a lot of time on this, but essentially like identifying where we disrupted in the past and those things that we were able to move forward, right? Car hops were innovative when they first started. Franchise models, Happy Meals, all the way down to today when we're talking about AI-driven solutions or influencers being, part of your brand. So it's really interesting because that's the way that we've grown, is thinking outside of the box and disruption. And I'm going to stop talking and I will ask you guys some questions. So Eric, how can restaurants use what they learn from online ordering and digital interactions to make marketing more relevant?
Yeah, I mean, I think we've talked about it a lot through this as well. I know Kevin touched upon it and Robert, but it's essentially stop treating the customer the exact same. The way I order is different than somebody else versus somebody else. So being able to understand your data, understand segmentation, and understand marketing in that specific way. If someone is a loyal customer, don't send them the same email that you're sending someone that hasn't ordered in 3 months. The specific reasons, obviously, because someone is constantly ordering every couple of days or every week. Someone that isn't ordering, why would you send them the same promotion, etc.? If someone is constantly coming in, there's no sense in sending them a promotion because they're already going to come in regardless. So it's being able to understand better timing of communication and being able to utilize the data to actually segment. So if you are capturing, as Robert was mentioning, capturing dietary restrictions, being able to understand that if someone says they're vegan or gluten free, don't send them, hey, we're doing pizza night or burgers or pork, because obviously you're going to lose that customer instantly. So there are ways of building marketing that is actually relevant to it as well. There's also there's a smoothie company that was opening up around me, and they did a grand opening, and the first 50 people that showed up will get a free smoothie for a year. So there's probably 100 people online. So being able to have that disruption and have that kind of brand recognition, I mean, everyone loves free things, and everyone loves the opportunity to win a giveaway or be able to have that. The main benefit of that as well is it also increased their app downloads as well, because the only way to get into to receive it is you got to download their app. In order to download their app, you got to give your name, your email, your phone number, and some other information. So they're capturing a lot of information. So yeah, they may be giving away a smoothie every week for a year, but they're also gaining a lot of information that they didn't have before as well. So Yeah, I think there's a lot of opportunities to do that. It just has to be done right and done at the right timing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Um, Robert, and I know that this is your passion. We've seen significant disruption on how customers order, pay, and interact with restaurants. What technology changes do you think have had the biggest impact on customer experience?
Uh, so I'm going to answer your question, but I'm first going to, actually leap forward a little bit because with disruption, this is where I think brands have a real advantage. And I think, decision intelligence is in an area that brands need to invest in and to seek out right now. Just looking backwards at the use of data, a backwards look on data reporting, that is a snapshot of what happened. And brands take a look at their reports, and from that, they try to make a decision on their own on what they can do moving forward. Now, we spent a great deal of time in the last 10 or 20 years to make that reporting, close to real time as possible. And it used to be that real time was once a day, it moved to every 15 minutes, and then it moved to sub-second. But at the end of the day, you're still asking someone to extrapolate from that data, from that report, from that dashboard, all of the information. You heard Mary Beth talk earlier about, how important it is for the departments within a brand to utilize the data and to understand what's being, what they're all doing with it. So that's where I'm going to just decision intelligence. It's the look forward. It's moving beyond real time, and it's the ability to be prescriptive. So if you do make a change with pricing or with a marketing campaign or where you place a store, that you will not only assume or see the trend of what should happen, that you do know exactly what will happen. And so um, generative AI and agentic AI has allowed those decisions to be made quicker and to be much more accurate. And there are solutions that are in our industry today that are only getting better that allow this like a forward deployed agent to be part of a brand's think tank, as you talked about ideating, and it's an AI agent inside your own four walls, helping you get not just to reading the data, but to actually coming to a decision and telling you what to do. Now, obviously, we want human in the middle somewhere along the line, but as that improves, there's some of those decisions can be automated. I mean, hats off to the brands that have taken all the disparate systems and they've put it into a data lake or some type of and pardon the expression, but I've heard this a couple of weeks ago, a data dumpster where all the data sits and people may be querying against it, but they're really just doing what they did with the data prior. Every time if you take a frontier model and you attach your data dumpster to it and you query and ask a lot of questions, you're going to get some responses, but is it learning? And so you want to make sure that you capture and retain all of those decisions that it's giving you, and then you can build on it. And then you can also share that across all your departments. So it's not just one person with a laptop building some awesome AI agent that's doing this for you, but that needs to be shared with all your project teams. There are solutions that are in our industry today that are focused on restaurant decision intelligence. That is what is going to be disruptive in the near future. And the brands that get to that sooner are going to really win.
I love that. Like, even if we're, pulling information more quickly and getting more detailed information, if you're not using it, it's not worth anything. So to kind of to piggyback on that, Mary Beth, what is one piece of data that restaurants might be overlooking or underusing today?
I know I always end up being the data basics person, but going back to profitability is super important. And actually, I think one piece that I've seen a lot of brands underutilize that can really change your strategic perspectives isn't just the pure profitability and COGS of your products that you're selling, but is based on the strategy you've put in place, is the loyalty program that you're running profitable if you add up the platform itself, all of the contractors, the team, all of the also the like discounting that's going on top of that. A lot of times there's other strategies of why you're truly doing it, but understanding that number and saying, oh, well, if it isn't profitable, the goal is that it will be because then there's a return customer rate that's higher than other areas. But there have been some times where we've been operating with an assumption, and I'm maybe making some of the like loyalty platform people mad or something on this call, but like there's this assumption that like a loyalty customer is always more valuable than other customers that are coming in. So I think we underutilize the data that is like our true operations of how we're running in some of those areas. Same thing goes with advertising. You might think that your return on investment in like a particular channel is a certain percentage, but that percentage that you're looking at is usually purely your ad spend to how much you have gotten out of that revenue. And it's ignoring all of the other costs that are associated with it, like the creatives that were developed, the agency on top, so on and so forth. And so sometimes taking a hard look at that and all of those things stacked together will show you a picture of which channels have different profitabilities for you, which doesn't mean you cut them out, right? It just means that you may want to look at some of those and say, okay, well, we actually have these 3 or so areas that we've been focusing on, but not so much as some of these other ones that have a really high spend and maybe are kind of break even. What if we put some more investment into ones that already are positive and just carefully watch that and see if we can continue to have a positive there, and then carefully balance the other ones and make sure that there's a strategic reason for operating at a margin that is less or negative.
Absolutely. I mean, I think like, when I was on the brand side, the conversation was we need to have loyalty because we need to have loyalty. But if the ROI isn't there and you're not getting anything back, that you really should rethink that. So we're coming up on time. One last question, and then we will open up questions to the audience. Casey, how can restaurants use what they know about their customers without making the interaction feel impersonal or, on the other hand, invasive? Because they can seem a little creepy.
Oh, sorry, they can. And I'm a big proponent in finding ways to have conversations with your customers, getting true data insights, doing customer intercepts, and creating firsthand interactions with your creative teams or your marketing teams to be able to have autonomy, because you as leaders inside the brand trust that what they're finding out and insights they're learning about, you trust that they can go outside of the box and really think differently to be a disruptor. It takes a level of trust between the executive team and those coming out with those, because you do have to manage reputation, and there's a PR component. It might be easier to experiment with things like talkies, because they're a hot thing right now. And so you make a product that has something with talkie seasoning or toppings that may be less risky than taking the path of, let's say, what just happened. Meta came out with their glasses, right? And then DuckDuckGo, their Meta sunglasses that have like the AI component. And then DuckDuckGo came behind them and started selling glasses without AI, which is just regular sunglasses. And it was funny and humorous, and people gravitated towards it because the creepiness of Meta's glasses was one side, and they went to the exact other and said, we're also selling sunglasses. They don't have AI, but they will protect your eyes. Like just being a bit cheeky. And we've seen that over the years with brands having fun with one another. I know Wendy's, when Mary Beth and I were there, they were big with that on socials. And sometimes just showing that you can have heart by giving to the Dave Thomas Foundation and rounding up, knowing that when you go to Chipotle, they give to certain charities, and there's components that you can really leverage once you know your customers to make them feel like, we hear you with your voice, we see you with your heart, and we can be cheeky and fun. We are multifaceted as a brand, and it can be all containerized within our brand voice and how we show up.
I love that. So having a strong brand voice and, telling them that you see that it could be creepy and kind of playing with it. Thank you, Casey.
Yeah.
So now we'll open it up to questions. I know Robert with Anuba Technologies has had his hand up for a while. Do you want to go ahead, Robert? You have to unmute first, though.
I'm sorry, can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, I have a question. I heard Mark and Christian touch on this. You touched on this. Nearly half of restaurants have switched their go-to restaurant last year from the data up from a third. And I wanted to know order accuracy. It sits upstream of that. And what order is the loyalty takes itself away. Think of
You're kind of breaking
accuracy
up a little bit,
today, and do
Robert.
you tie it to loyalty? Oh, how do you think about order accuracy today, and do you tie it to loyalty? Thank you.
Who wants to take that?
I'm sorry, who was the
I can
question
tell you
for?
order accuracy.
Okay.
Order accuracy is one of the biggest problems with third-party or online ordering, missing items and order accuracy as a whole. So it does take some operational execution chops to either carve out a KDS strictly for that or double checking. But it can be difficult because a lot of those third parties don't share that customer data. They're different customers. You have to
Right,
reel them in
but what
to
about
kind
at
of
the
use
build? Sure. Okay. But what about at the build line where you're actually assembling the order rather than further downstream with the third party apps? That's my question. If the order is wrong, the lifetime value of the customer suffers. So I'm curious to know, is order accuracy at the build line something you guys focus on to really retain that long-term value of the customer?
Actually, I think that it has less to do with the order accuracy and more to do with how the brand recovers. Because if, it's going to happen. It happens, like Casey said, with third parties. You don't have that information from the customer. And I feel like order accuracy, if you are consistently having issues with the line messing up the order, that's an
Yeah.
operational, like that requires some training operationally. But there are some studies, I wish I remember who did it, but if a customer has an issue and that issue was resolved in a very personal, quick, empathetic way, that customer is more loyal than a customer who had an inaccurate order and wasn't taken care of, or even a customer that just had a regular experience with the restaurant, right? Because the restaurant doesn't get the opportunity to go above and beyond until you have a problem. So making sure
Right.
that your
Right.
reactive customer service, and
Right.
it's in the matrix too, but your reactive customer service has to be on point to take care of that customer. And that's where you get higher retention. Not that I'm saying that, every restaurant should mess up an order in order to get a loyal customer, but when provided with that opportunity, it helps that restaurant recover and get a higher lifetime value from that customer.
Right, but what about actually catching it before a reaction, like proactively being able to save the wrong order before it goes in the wrong bag, where you don't have to recover the customer again? That's my question specifically.
I
And
think
how
that's
that.
more an operational issue. Like I'm working with a brand right now that is
Mhm.
having issues on the line, but
Okay.
they're not looking at it in a macro way, right? I mean, the rule should be if your line is consistently having problems, there is an operational inefficiency or an operational error somewhere. The names aren't big enough or on the chits, or maybe there are no chits that people are handing, on bags or something. So I think that's more operational, and I think it might be a little outside the scope to try and fix that.
I think Robert Peterson has an answer too.
I
Oh,
do.
go ahead.
I just wanted to make a plug for our current work group, which because right now we're doing a data standard on a kitchen production, and you have specifically mentioned the build, which occurs inside the kitchen. I'm going to put the onus back on the solution providers that to adopt the kitchen production data standard once we finish it. In that data standard, what we're doing is we're pulling in all the order data regardless of the channel, and we're also feeding all the upstream systems. And I know that there are tools today that will do some validation checks either by weight or by vision on what's being built, and they can marry it up against the order itself. That's not something a data standard can do. We can provide the data that needs to be utilized to do that, which then would allow systems to do that. We already have put in place much prior to that. We do see that the brands have just putting in a self-order platform, you are verifying that you ordered the correct item. So assuming that everything has been ordered correctly and it comes into the kitchen for it to be built correctly, then it would be those vendors that then can utilize the data standards that we're creating to verify that. And then if there's something upstream from kitchen production, then it does fall on a third-party aggregator or delivery or something of that sort to capture it there. And again, Christina, you were right. It's how mistakes will always be made. So recovery will never change. That's a key piece there. But just a plug there for our kitchen production work group. I would encourage all to join and participate.
Perfect segue, Robert, and thank you so much. I want to thank this entire group. Christina, awesome job you did to lead today. This is such a powerful work group that you guys put together. Just a plug for our existing work groups we have right now. Robert Peterson mentioned one that we're just closing out, but the two active work groups we have going on are the AI data standards and the AI workforce and compliance work group. Would love to have all of you participate. If you're interested, just leave a comment in the chat section or ping either Tammy Hansen or myself. We'll make sure you get invited to that work group. But once again, this is where operators and suppliers come together to solve for common issues within the industry. So this is probably one of the most powerful pieces of what RTN does. But once again, I want to thank all of our contributors today for all the hard work you guys have done. It's amazing. I'm so glad to see when these work groups come to fruition and we're able to share the work that's been put together. Robert Peterson, Mary Beth, Tim Tang, Eric Sol, Christina Clausen, Mark Molinex, and Casey Merrifield. Thank you so much for the work that you put in on this. Glad to have all of you here today, and we encourage all of you to partake in a work group in the future. Also, just real quick, we have a town hall coming up on August 26th. We love for you to participate. Just keep track of the RTN LinkedIn profile to make sure that you're up to date on all the activities that are happening. And we love to have you participate in those as well. I want to thank everybody today. Thank you so much. And we look forward to chatting with all of you soon. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Right.
Bye-bye.